Welcome to the GPLama YouTube channel, where today we finally see Zwift launch their latest map, Scotland. In this video today, I'll cover off all the details about this map, when you get to ride it, the 5 new route badges, and we'll do a full ride through of the entire 15 or so kilometres of new roads on Zwift. Alright, kicking off with the details here, Zwift state that it's designed for training and racing. Zwift's newest world is inspired by Glasgow and Scottish landscapes. It's not a direct one-for-one copy like we saw with something like Richmond and Innsbruck. There's a lot of creativity here, jamming this world into a smaller space than those maps. They state here that this new world is Zwift's first designed specifically for the UCI Cycling Esports World Championships. They also list here that there is a combined total of 58.8 kilometres to explore, ride and race, but I think that takes in all of the route badges. All up there's around 15 kilometres. Okay, when can you ride this? Straight to the details of that. Scotland will be initially available only for events and races. Zwift's first chance to ride Scotland will be stage 8 of the Tour de Zwift, so February 3rd through 5th. Ride Scotland and Race Scotland events are scheduled from the 6th of February through the 7th of March. For anybody who misses the Tour de Zwift. The February Z-Race series will also be held on the Scotland map, and completing a Z-Racing or Ride Scotland event on the new map will unlock the Zwift Tartan cycling kit. The detail I guess you want to know is when can we free ride this? That will be on March 8th. Now pulling up the map of the course here, this has a little bit of everything and it's probably a little smaller than what you think. After riding around this course for the last few days, undercover with a few UDP packets blocked on the firewall, you can see here on screen there's a coastal area, there's a city area, there's some inland, there's some coastal inland, there's a section that I call the intestine, which is a nice climb, and there's a little bit of everything sort of in the mix there at the end. Now my quick take on this course is that I actually do like it. It does have a bit of everything and it doesn't feel as isolated as something like the France map, where when you're out in the fields, you're a long way from anywhere else. With this, you're only ever a few kilometres away from the other side of the map. So as long as you have your bearings right, you know which way it's north and which way you're turning at intersections, you're good to go. You can pretty much get any kind of workout you want on this map. That is assuming you're not into 60 or 90-minute long slogs up big climbs. There's other maps for that. A quick take on each section of the map here before we dive into more details. The city itself has a little bit more spice to it, as has been mentioned over on Reddit, than Crit City. So there's a few rollers in here with about 3 kilometres of length in the city there. The section that I call the intestine is a great little climb with a few little corkscrew climbs involved. The 3 sections that I'll call sort of transition sections, so along the coast, the inner coast and through the fields, they're not exactly flat, so there's a bit of spice in those as well. And over there on the right-hand side of the map, there's just a bit of a bump, which means there's no letting off on the pedal. So overall, I really enjoyed this map. I think it's going to be popular, but I think that does depend on the availability of this as well. Anyway, more on that at the end of the video. Let's have a look at the 5 new routes and the route badges you can achieve with this world. Starting off with the Glasgow circuit, 3 kilometres in length, 33 metres of climbing, so there is a bit of a kicker. And we can see there over on the Zwift Insider preview, we have the Clyde kicker there at the back of the circuit, leading into the Champions Sprint. So it's route number 1, 3 kilometres in length. Route number 2, Loch Loop, 8.1 kilometres, 71 metres of climbing. So not a lot of climbing, but you still need to push on the pedals and change those gears every now and then. Should take you 30 minutes or less, according to Zwift. And over on the Zwift Insider preview, we can see there that it's effectively downhill most of the way until we hit the breakaway Bray reverse climb. And then it loops us up through the loop-de-loop or the round to the start-finish line. So 8.1 kilometres for that, giving you 160 XP for the completion. Onto the route that I have done, Rolling Highlands, with one epic lead in there, all up 14 kilometres, 106 metres of climbing. Should again take you 30 minutes or less to complete this one. Taking in the outskirts of the country section of this new world. Pulling up the Zwift Insider overview here and the epic lead-in, which is mostly downhill before kicking into that little climb. Then the route starts proper. Double backing on yourself and then completing the loop in the other direction through the round, shortcut on the little climb, and there you go through the archway and you are done. Route number 4, City and the Sgurr, which I call the intestine. Interesting little loop, this one, starting in the city, heading out up the intestine, and then on the descent, around the roundabout, back down the intestine, and back up the intestine. So quite a bit of climbing on that one. Going to be a popular little training route, this one here, for hill climbing intervals. 8.5k all up on that one, and 166 metres of climbing. And finally, the big one, the Muckle Yin, taking in 23.4 kilometers and completing every section of tarmac on this new world. Down the intestine there, through the city loop and through the archway. Pulling up the Zwift Insider animation here, we can see it starts in the city, goes around the outskirts of the farmlands, etc. Loops around, up the intestine, down the back of the intestine, back out in the countryside again. Few loop-the-loops, and you can see there with all these sections marked along the bottom there, there's quite a lot going on there with climbs, and finishing off with the champion sprint right here. Moving now to a full ride through and a talk through of the entire 15 kilometers of new roads on this course. What you have on screen here is me riding the bike. Above me, you have something very important that I use to learn this map, and that is the companion app with north set upwards. It's how I learnt which is north, which is south, which is east, which is west, and where I was when doing the round-arounds and loop-the-loops or whatever this course has. It has quite a few of them. Now, I do take a wrong turn here, but I'll pull up on screen the full route that I'll be taking for this ride through. And that's everything we'll be covering today. So if you want to jump on the bike and ride, I highly recommend doing that in one of the events coming up soon. Or if you want to see the entire map and listen to me ramble on for the next few minutes, kick back and enjoy. All right, hanging left here towards the cliffs and getting back on course. And if you want to get your bearings, yeah, that map above is the one to look at. I also have the mini map on screen there, which shows a little closer up. Differing sea levels there. There must be one hell of a loch around the corner, onto some cliffs. And what you'll notice pretty much straight away, and as I did when first riding this course, is you don't feel isolated, as I've mentioned, like you do on the France course, when you're out in the fields and you want to get somewhere else. The transition from one to the other to get somewhere else takes quite some time. With this, you're only ever 2 or 3 kilometers at max from something entirely different. So heading down here past the... Now forgive me for not calling out these hexagonal rock formations for what they are. I'm sure people will correct me in the comments, and please do let us know what they are. Rolling through here, mostly downhill, so -1, -2%. As we look at the rough seas there. Now, for me, new tarmac on Zwift is always fun, but it's about the availability of it, and does it change the experience? And look, I really think this does change the experience because it compresses everything down. So we're almost at the city, which we won't be turning to, but we'll be heading to the intestine and doing that climb. So the Sgurr summit, we'll be coming back to Glasgow in a few minutes' time. We're hanging left there. And hopefully, again, with that map above, you can get your bearings of where you are on the map and where the climb is. Now, the Sgurr summit, I think it's going to be a nice one. The first lap up was around 5 minutes or so that I did. Okay, intersection coming through here. Hanging a left up that hill. And my PBs should pop up out of there. There we go, so 5:09. Now, just now wasn't actually the case. It was yesterday. But I thought we'd give it a bit of a crack up this climb and see what I can do. So I'm still learning the ups and downs. It's not all just one gradient, so it does go up and down, as you saw there, -1 up to 4%. It has a bit of a kick. It does wind around like an intestine, like you can see there on the mini map. This is going to be quite interesting to race, this particular climb. The rest is sort of undulating and rolling, as you'll see, but this one is the biggest climb on the course. All right, ripping through here. There's a ton of Easter eggs they've put in here too. I haven't seen Loch Ness yet. Apparently Nessie's around somewhere. There's a few other things, and I'm sure, it's like they did with Yorkshire, put a few hat tips to the local area. Alrighty. Kicking up again, 5%, down to -1%, so a little bit of rest before getting the rest of the intestine complete. So it's the Sgurr climb or whatever they call it, but I'm calling it the intestine for obvious reasons. If you're seeing my XP there, I'm getting plus 40 XP. I'm still on the accelerated pathway through to level 60. That's why I'm getting that. And the drops aren't counting up because that hasn't been fixed yet from the last update. Already last little round to the summit. And with UDP packets blocked for this session on the firewall, nobody else is on course. So No matter what time I set, I'll be getting the jersey for this. All right, pushing through to the end and completely cooked there with a heart rate of 185. I don't think we'll be seeing that for the rest of the ride. Okay, onto the back of the intestine, heading back north to where we started. Again, looking at the top map to position yourself of where we are on the map. And 4.8 Ks in, and we've nearly done a complete loop. So that should give you an indication of how small this map is, but also how varied the terrain is too. I'm not quite sure on the climb surface. I'm not quite sure. I don't think it was dirt. Definitely wasn't tarmac. So I'm not quite sure what the fastest bike will be. Zwift Insider should have that information very, very soon, if not already. World's shortest super tuck taking place right here and back up on the saddle. Okay, so 3 routes there. We'll go back towards the tower. Now we're heading across, well, on this map, it's the north section. On the Strava map, everything's about 90 degrees over. So this is the east section on Strava, but let's not worry about that. Let's work with the in-game map. Right, here's where we started. So that's one full loop there of around 6 Ks of that, what would you call it, western loop. Now we're off into the bridge and the inland coast. Pressed H there to get rid of the heads-up display or the HUD and have a clean vision of what's coming up. You'll see as we come over the crest here, things drop off a little bit. Flat section through here, very rare flat section of this course before dropping down. You'll see it drop down there to the left. Now how this rides is completely different in a bunch than it is solo. So all my commentary is obviously from a solo ride. In a bunch, the dynamics will change quite a bit, especially with that pack dynamics, the drafting, and that, what you get, the flow effect as you get into a climb. Speaking of, here is one of the little surprises that come up. And it's another one of these sort of roundabout circular climbs, corkscrews, I guess you'd call them, which goes up and around, 8%. They're not long, but they do have a bit of a kick to them. 7.6 Ks in, we're almost about halfway through already. Again, covering most of the map from the north side, looping back around past Scotty the Squirrel. Lots of atmosphere on this course, but it really compresses the best of, in my opinion, the race courses that we've had, and it takes out the boring parts, I guess, which we have in the France map, going so far out and so far back in. There's a little bridge that we'll come across in a moment, because we're covering every metre. We're going through what looks like a coliseum. I'm sure it's something. I'm sure it's famous. Let me know in the comments below what this structure is coming up here. But this is another start-finish line coming up. Again, 5% climb through here, just undulating all the way through. Obviously, they've got bagpipes. And start-finish line there for that segment, the breakaway Bray. And down to the bridge. This little section here in reverse has a bit of a kick to it as well. Not quite sure which way they're going for the UCI Road Worlds, Esports Road Worlds. But either direction, bit of a pinch. Now we'll go over the bridge, so we'll hang a right turn here for cliffs, just to cover off this. Now this is not flat. And again, using the map above for a reference point, so we've just come down the north face, we've looped around, and now we're heading back up north from the southern loop. And again, -4%, -1, and then a little bit of a climb through there. So we'll do a U-turn here, get back on track, and we'll get back into the city, and we're done. So 10 Ks all up so far, and things ticking along nicely. All right, so descent through here, right-hand turn, and again, using that map above, which was absolutely brilliant to understand where I was. We can head back towards the city without getting lost. Now, the first ride that I did with this was a group ride, just one of the test rides, and I literally had no idea where I was. It had a 5-kilometre lead in, and then looped back around and did anti-clockwise, and yeah, anyhow. use the mini-map. Definitely hot tip there. All right, through this section here, look, I think this is probably the most boring section of the course, let's be honest. Not much going on, bit of a deer in the headlights there. Some fog before we loop back around to where we've already been, and that's the roundabout that took us up the intestine. But we're going to go through that roundabout, not up the intestine again. We'll go into the city. We'll check out all the spice that entails. Okay. Not sure if it's an Easter egg, but there is a train up. No Loch Ness spotted though. Thankfully no rain, and hopefully they don't put rain on. The last thing I want indoors is rain, or simulated rain. They've got something pretty going on here. I'm not quite sure what this is a hat tip to, as I accidentally throw a U-turn and get back on track. And we're almost back at the city. So 12.2 Ks, we've taken in all of the outskirts, farmland, etc. It's time to get stuck into the city circuit, around 3 Ks or so of that. And quite an eye-opener for the city circuit. I thought it was going to be pretty flat, anything but. Coming up in just a few moments. All right, hanging left here. No right turn. Well, technically it's right, but it's, anyhow. Once we get to know the course, we're good. Alrighty, into the city. I'm sure there's a few Easter eggs hidden in here too. And just trying to get the right camera angle to show the gradient. First person, or the first third person view you have, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to tell the exact gradient without the percentage, but if you can pull back a little bit, as you'll see in a moment, you can see the rollers coming up. So definitely not a flat course. What is it, 3.6% at 300 meters, but it's not just this section here. So it goes to 0 there and has a kick. You can see that coming up right here. It requires me to let out a bit of flame tire. Level 50 socks and going over 150 FTP, I believe. Will get you flames coming out the back for around 12 seconds. All right, that climb done. We're onto the southern section of the course. The city course, that is, the crit course. Around, and all of what you're seeing today can be ridden in the other direction too. And some rollers here. This will be interesting to race. Rollers, you just cannot get off the pedals. A longer descent, you can have a bit of a rest. These, it just waves along. A little descent through here. No super tuck to be had. We're not over 55 or 56. No, not going to happen. More bagpipes. And another little kicker. There's some artwork in town. I'm sure someone's going to stop and take some photos of those and put them up on social somewhere. All right, now into the final sprint. This is champion sprint. Not much left in the legs here, so we'll just tick that over. And there's the finish line just there. We'll go around the corner, and that will take in all of the course. Or all of this new world, sorry. That's done. Again, more undulations. So multiple laps of this crit circuit is going to be very, very interesting racing. Now, unfortunately, I didn't select this route to get the route badge. So no route badges here. Okay, back to the cliffs. And there we have it. Every single metre covered of the new Scotland world. So there it is, the new Scotland world on Zwift with all the details and a full ride through. Let me know what you think in the comments after you've ridden it in a few days' time. For me, as I said, I do like the course. It combines a bit of everything in a small area. So if you don't like one section, you can do a U-turn or use those little shortcuts to get somewhere else on course. That intestine climb is a good little heart starter, coming in at just under 4 minutes at full gas for me at the moment. And that new Glasgow crit course really does put Crit City to shame. So I'm keen to see how this is received, but I do think it all comes down to availability. And again, I'll put the word out there. I do think Zwift need to get rid of the schedule or the calendar for free rides and allow us to select any world without having to jump through the menus and bypass that restriction anyway. Let's hope by March 8th we can select any world with free rides. Let's see how it goes when it's released. All right, with that, thanks for watching and we'll see you soon.